Welcome back. You're watching Today, and motorists are urged to take extra caution as vehicle thefts and hijackings continue to increase sharply. Recent findings by Tracker's Index report found car thefts increase by 12% just last year. The company's Chief Operating Officer, Duma Ngcobo, joins us this afternoon for more on this worrying trend. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And it's definitely not a conversation that South Africans want to be listening to on a Sunday afternoon. But unfortunately, so that we remain safe and we take the necessary precautions, you're going to tell us about this trend and what exactly has the picture looked like so far when it comes to theft and hijackings of vehicles in South Africa's roads.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I do concur. It's not a pleasant afternoon's conversation. Nevertheless, it is one that we pay a watchful eye to inform and educate South Africans all round. What we have seen, as you indicated, is a slight increase, obviously from year 2021 going into 2022. And that trend has almost continued in the same vein, moving from about 8% in 2021 versus 2020, and a sharp increase of about 15% going into 2023.
But what would you say are some of the reasons that this is happening? Because we've also seen data that indicates that more and more motorists are taking out services from Tracker or other service providers that would track their vehicle safety and monitor the movements. So what exactly is causing criminals to become more brazen in that we are seeing an increase in these thefts and hijackings?
Yeah, quite correct. I think you're seeing three basic trends. Obviously, with the change from the lockdown periods where there was limited movement of vehicles, criminals are taking advantage of more of us being out and about on the roads, whether it's going to work and back, whether it's going to drop kids at school or in the shopping centers on weekends. So certainly it's become quite attractive with the number of vehicles that are out on the road. That's the one trend. The second trend that we obviously are seeing is a more smarter type of criminal. What does that mean? The use of electronic devices to compromise vehicle security systems, what we so-called relay or CAN bus attacks. These are very smart methods that within seconds allow a would-be criminal to get into your car. And then the third trend is unfortunately, the hijackings that we're seeing on our roads.
And a worrying trend is that a lot of these, and in KZN in particular you've highlighted, is that it is a violent crimes and theft, or theft rather, that take place when cars are being stolen or hijacked. Tell us a little bit about the growth of that particular trend, the violent component of the theft and hijacking.
Correct. So we have a name internally in the organization called activations. That basically means the frequency with which vehicles are either stolen or hijacked. In KZN in particular, we've seen a sharp increase of about 18% in the number of hijackings that are taking place. And that's a very worrying trend because where firearms are utilized, the loss of life at times does occur. So it is something that I think people in the greater Durban and surrounds need to be very mindful over.
Talk us through a misconception that perhaps those, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier in the conversation, that those cars that have the push to start function as opposed to the traditional key are less at risk than those who might have the traditional key. I mean, we've seen reports that technologies have been developed to mimic whatever network or a communication has been sent between the car and the key that doesn't need to be put into the actual vehicle when starting is. So is it a misconception that those that are at risk are those with the traditional mode of operating the car, or is it a free-for-all for criminals where any car is at risk?
I think in short, any vehicle can be stolen and any vehicle can basically be hijacked. But what tends to happen is criminals like ourselves have a particular preference for newer vehicles. It fetches more money in the black market. It fetches more money for vehicles going across the border and so on. Therefore, if a vehicle is new, it tends to be a lot more attractive than an older vehicle and obviously more reliable. That's the one sort of consideration. You spoke a little bit about these keyless entry cars, or what we refer to them as, where basically your hand being near the vehicle and you start a vehicle with a basic button, a push to start button. What happens when you lock your key, or your vehicle rather, as you walk away, there's a frequency of messaging between the vehicle and your key. What the criminals are then able to do, by getting quite close to you, they can mimic that signal. In other words, there's a receiver next to your vehicle, and there's a transponder that basically mimics the message between your key and your vehicle. By so doing, they can replicate that message onto a completely separate key and therefore get into your vehicle quite quickly. And within literally 20 seconds or less, your vehicle can be started and be driven off.
Yeah, and then just finally and very briefly, if you could, any work that Tracker is doing alongside law enforcement authorities, not only to ensure the recovery of stolen vehicles, but also to make sure that they don't get taken over the borders, which we do know is something that happens. Many of them are taken into other countries after they're stolen. The role of Tracker here, and if you have any partnership with other law enforcement authorities.
Yeah, we partner with law enforcement across the country, be it metro police of various kinds in Durban, City of Cape Town, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and Pretoria, and so on, or what we refer to as Tshwane Metro. It's important that we create that force multiplier. Additionally, we also partner with South African police, because through the South African police, we have then can ensure powers of apprehension. So that's the one thing we invest quite heavily in. The second is obviously tools, technological tools, to try and counter these methods that criminals use. And we always recommend to our customers that they get these metal-coated pouches, the so-called Faraday pouches. It's a little pouch that you can put your key in. It can help you enormously in preventing the messaging from your key from being intercepted. Therefore, after locking your car, you put it in a Faraday pouch, and it can prevent a would-be criminal from capturing your signal, as it were.
Thank you very much for those worrying insights, but really just offering our viewers an option to protect themselves there. That is the Chief Operating Officer at Tracker, Duma Ngcobo, joining us this afternoon.